This is Shari Levitin with the Heart and Sell podcast series, and we are chatting with some of the most amazing sales leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, and top performers in sales. This podcast is in celebration of you and your commitment to sell with heart and authenticity. You can pre-order my new book at heartandsell.com and enjoy this full podcast and many more as part of your purchase. And remember, what you do matters, but who you are matters more. Let me ask you this. You were talking earlier about empathy, but again, you're so good teaching body language, and I know you've worked with the FBI in studying body language and tonality. What is the importance of that in the sales process for salespeople, and how do they learn to be better at it? I call it that we need to not only listen to the words, but we need to listen to the emotion behind the words. It's the said and the unsaid, right? What advice do you have for salespeople about that?
Well, Shari, I think one of your principles, I believe, is looking for what's right and not what's missing. Well, one of the things about nonverbal communication, it was our first language before we were able to even utter a word. Babies can command so many things simply by just their tone and crying. Well, what happens is, and when Dr. Maharabian talked about the communication theory, and I think he's still professor emeritus at UCLA, it was based on personal emotions and feelings. But what happens is that whatever you think about in that brain, in that super neo computer in your mind, it takes yet a fleeting moment for the brain, the subconscious mind, to send the signals to the body. If you think about this, and for all the professionals that are listening, think about this. A person can have their heart working, the lungs, all the organs working, except if they are on the hospital bed with tubes hooked up to them because they're brain dead. Eventually, someone's going to pull the plug because it's that neo supercomputer that sends all the messages. And here is the thing, that when you begin to think that thing, whatever you think about, it comes about. What does that mean? It comes about in your actions and your reactions. It comes about and displayed with the 42 muscles that are in your face. So you and I both know if someone says something that's distasteful or uncomfortable, the moment that the brain gets it, we react to it, and just a split millisecond, it comes out. Why is that important to sales professionals? Because you have to make sure that you say what you mean and mean what you say. And whatever it is on your mind will come out in fine print in your face and your nonverbal. So it's just like, to give you an example, there are a lot of people, the customer or the prospect or the client will say, tell me this, is this the absolutely best offer you're giving me? And if the person feels guilty about, the sales professional feels guilty about lying, let's say they were raised not to lie, but it's the end of the month, and they haven't written a sale or closed the deal since who knows how long. And automatically, unconsciously, they don't want to say it, the brain knows you're not telling the truth, automatically they will have what we call lip, L-I-P, compression. And what lip compression is when we, Shari, where we make our lips real fine, it's almost like biting your tongue, where you bringing the lips in like you're trying to not say anything, because the person just asked you, is this absolutely the best offer that you're giving me? And you know your brain is saying no, you want to say yes, so unconsciously. It's the same thing that when a little child, you'll say little Billy or little Cindy or whoever, did you say that naughty word? And why does the child put their hand across their mouth? Because they're trying to, the brain knows you said the word, you said it, but you're trying to put it back in. You're trying to go against the brain, and we know the part of the brain that is the truth brain, and that is in the reptilian, is the amygdala, which is all part of our limbic system. So they know, they said, wait a minute, this is what was happening. I'm sending the signals to the body. And when the customer sees that, they don't have to be trained in nonverbal communication. They don't have to be trained in any of that. They just look at each other and says, you know what? It sounded good, but something's not right. Something is just not right. And that's the same way we feel about politicians. It's the same way we feel when someone comes around us. It's our protective mechanism that's telling us something's not right. It's the same way that when you fold your arms and you tell someone you're happy to see them, yet your arms are folded across one of your power zones, your heart area. It's not consistent. So for those that are listening, when the words and the tone and the nonverbal, when all three don't agree, then there's a disconnect in the message between you and me. And your nonverbal will overrule the verbal if there's no consistency. So it is critical for you to have a commitment, a conviction, and a belief about what you're saying, because that's when the symphony of congruency will be displayed in front of your customer.